Europe and Germany news update. Drought, low rivers, agriculture and Germany's gas storage. Hello and welcome, my dear viewers, to a new news update. For the first time in a while, I want to bring you a short news overview of what is currently happening in Europe with a special focus on Germany. There are several developments worth watching right now. Europe is dealing with unusually dry conditions. Rivers are at very low levels. Agriculture is under pressure, and Germany is heading toward the winter with gas storage levels that are significantly lower than they were at this time last year. In this update, I will take a look at the most important developments and explain what they could mean for the months ahead. Let's begin. Drought across Europe. The first major issue is the drought. Large parts of Europe have been experiencing unusual hot and dry conditions for months. According to the European Commission Joint Research Centre, drought has affected large parts of the continent since spring, while forecasts indicate that hot and dry conditions could continue into September. The consequences are becoming increasingly visible. Rivers are shrinking, agricultural production is being affected, and in some regions, water restrictions have already become necessary. This is no longer simply a question of uncomfortable summer weather. The drought is beginning to affect transportation, agriculture, energy production, and the economy. The Rhine at extremely low levels. One of the clearest examples can be seen in Germany. The Rhine has fallen to extremely low levels. At Cologne, the river recently reached a historic low, with the water level falling below half a meter. Ships are still able to operate in some sections, but many can no longer carry their normal loads. Some vessels have to reduce their cargo considerably in order to avoid running aground. Other goods that would normally travel along the Rhine have to be transported by road or rail instead. That means additional costs, delays, and more pressure on Germany's transportation network. The Rhine is one of Europe's most important commercial waterways. So when the Rhine becomes too shallow, this is not just a problem for ships. It can also become a problem for industry and the wider economy. Agriculture under pressure. The drought is also affecting Europe's farmers. Crops need water at critical stages of their development. When high temperatures are combined with prolonged periods without sufficient rainfall, yields can fall significantly. France, for example, is expecting a major decline in its maize harvest. Germany is also facing lower maize production compared with last year. Other European agricultural regions are experiencing similar problems. This does not mean that Europe is running out of food, but lower harvests can mean greater dependence on imports and higher prices. If several major agricultural regions are affected at the same time, the pressure on the European food market can increase. Wildfire danger. Another consequence of the dry conditions is the increased danger of wildfires. Dry vegetation can turn forests and grasslands into highly combustible areas. Several European countries have already experienced serious fire this summer. The combination of extreme heat, dry vegetation, and strong winds can cause fires to spread very rapidly. With drought conditions continuing across large parts of Europe, wildfire risks remains an import issue as we move toward the end of summer. Germany's energy situation. And this brings us to one of the most important issues for Germany as we approach winter. Germany's gas storage facilities are unusually empty for this time of year. According to current data, German gas storage facilities are only around half full. European storage facilities are also significantly below the levels seen at the same time last year. This is becoming an increasingly important issue because Germany needs to build up its reserves before the winter heating season. The November deadline. There is a specific deadline approaching. Under Germany's current storage regulations, most storage facilities are required to reach a level of 80% by November 1st. There are exceptions for certain facilities where a lower target applies. The overall situation, however, remains challenging. Germany has considerably less gas in storage than it had at the same point last year, and the remaining time before the heating season is getting shorter. This is why the German government and the Federal Network Agency are urging market participants to increase gas storage. Why is the gas not being stored faster? There is an important economic reason. Gas is currently expensive. The European benchmark price for natural gas has risen significantly. For companies that buy gas during the summer and store it for the winter, this creates a difficult calculation. They have to purchase expensive gas now without knowing exactly what prices will be during the winter. If prices fall later, they could lose money on the gas they bought. So there is an economic incentive to wait. But waiting also creates another risk. The less gas Germany stores before winter, the smaller its safety buffer becomes. LNG and international competition. Europe is also increasingly dependent on liquefied natural gas known as LNG. LNG can be transported by ship and imported from international suppliers. But Europe is not the only region competing for these supplies. Asian countries are also major LNG consumers. If global demand rises or suppliers become tighter, European buyers may have to pay more to attract available cargoes. This could become particularly important during the winter months. Germany has several sources of gas, including pipeline supplies and LNG imports. Norway remains one of the country's most important suppliers. So Germany is not dependent on one single source, but the international gas market still has a direct influence on German prices. Does Germany face a gas shortage? This is an important question. And the answer right now is no immediate gas shortage is expected. Germany's authorities continue to describe the supply situation as stable. The concern is different. Germany is entering the winter season with an unusually small amount of gas already stored. If the winter is mild, this could be manageable. But if Europe experiences a long and very cold winter, demand could rise significantly. And if international gas prices remain high at the same time, the pressure on the energy market could become much greater. What could this mean for consumers? Higher wholesale prices do not immediately translate into higher households' energy bills. Energy suppliers often purchase gas months in advance. But if high wholesale prices remain for a prolonged period, consumers can eventually feel the effects. That could mean higher gas bills for households, and it could also mean higher costs for energy-intensive industries. This is therefore not only an energy story, it is also an economic story. The bigger picture. When we put these developments together, a larger picture emerges. Europe is currently facing several different pressures at the same time. Extreme drought is affecting agriculture. Low water levels are affecting the Rhine and other major rivers. transportation costs are increasing. Some agricultural harvests are expected to be smaller. Wildfire danger remains high, and Germany is trying to rebuild its gas reserves before winter. None of these developments alone means that Europe is facing a catastrophe, but they show how closely connected modern infrastructure really is. A dry summer can affect a river, a low river can affect transportation, transportation problems can affect industry, drought can reduce agricultural production, and international energy prices can affect households and businesses across the continent. What should we watch next? There are several things worth watching over the coming weeks. First, will rainfall return and improve the situation on Europe's rivers? Second, how severe will the agricultural losses ultimately be? Third, will gas storage in Germany increase quickly enough before winter? And fourth, what will happen to international gas prices and LNG supplies? The answer to these questions will help determine how difficult the coming autumn and winter could become. For now, Germany's energy supply remains stable, but the unusually low gas storage levels combined with the drought and the extremely low water levels on major rivers make this a situation worth watching closely. This is the latest situation in Europe and Germany. Thanks for watching. Take care, stay safe and stay healthy. See you soon in another video. Goodbye.